Decoding Enoch's Lost Archon Ritual. The Monad Light Ascension Technique. Are you ready to ascend beyond earthly constraints and tap into a divine energy few have ever accessed? Join us as we reveal Enoch's Lost Archon Ritual, a powerful Gnostic technique for Monad Light Ascension that Jesus himself studied before his ministry. Discover the specific meditative practices and sacred invocations that will allow you to bypass Archonic interference and directly access the primordial light of the monad. The Ascension technique, preserved through secret lineages, promises to transform your spiritual journey forever by connecting you with the ultimate source of divine consciousness. The Enochian enigma unveiling the Lost Archon Ritual. What if ancient texts held the key to ultimate spiritual freedom, a way to transcend earthly limitations and access pure divine light beyond the reach of forces that seek to control human consciousness? This question has driven spiritual seekers throughout millennia to investigate obscure hidden teachings and suppressed wisdom traditions that promise liberation from the cycles of suffering and limitation. Among these mysterious sources, few figures capture the imagination quite like Enoch, the enigmatic patriarch who, according to biblical accounts, walked so closely with God that he bypassed death entirely and was taken directly into divine realms. The Book of Enoch, excluded from most biblical canons, yet preserved through various traditions, describes extraordinary visions of celestial hierarchies, cosmic conflicts, and the hidden mechanisms governing human existence. Within these apocalyptic revelations lies encoded knowledge about the nature of reality itself, specifically regarding entities called Watchers and the complex relationship between humanity and non-physical intelligences. Oh, Weaver. The most carefully guarded secrets within Enochian literature concern practical techniques for spiritual ascension, methods through which initiated individuals could follow Enoch's path and achieve direct communion with the ultimate divine source. The Lost Archon Ritual represents one such technique, a sophisticated practice combining meditation, invocation, and conscious energy manipulation to create pathways through dimensional barriers that normally trap human consciousness within material existence. This ritual addresses a fundamental problem identified by Gnostic teachings, the presence of Archonic forces that actively interfere with human spiritual evolution, creating illusions and energetic blockages that prevent souls from recognizing their divine nature and accessing higher states of consciousness. These entities, operating from dimensions adjacent to physical reality, maintain control through manipulation of perception and harvesting of emotional energy generated by human suffering. For modern seekers navigating an increasingly chaotic world where authentic spiritual teachings become ever more difficult to distinguish from commercial spirituality and New Age distortions, the recovery of Enoch's ritual offers unprecedented opportunity. This technique bypasses the need for external authorities, religious institutions, or spiritual intermediaries, providing direct access to the monad through individual practice and dedication. Understanding the significance of this lost ritual requires first examining the Gnostic framework within which it operates, the nature of the forces it circumvents, and the ultimate destination it promises to reveal for those courageous enough to undertake the journey. The Gnostic Gateway Understanding, Archons, and the monad within Gnostic cosmology. Archons occupy a unique and troubling position as entities that emerge from the false creator deity known as the Demiurge, existing in dimensional layers between pure spirit and dense physical matter. Thesebanes, neither fully material nor truly spiritual, function as administrators and gatekeepers of the material realm, maintaining the systems of control that keep human consciousness trapped in endless cycles of reincarnation. Their primary method of operation involves creating and maintaining illusions that convince souls they are separate, limited, powerless beings, subject to external authority rather than expressions of infinite divine consciousness, temporarily experiencing material existence. The Archonic interference manifests across multiple levels of human experience, from the collective systems of social control that condition people into accepting limitations as natural and inevitable, to the subtle energetic manipulations that drain life force and prevent individuals from sustaining higher states of awareness. These entities feed parasitically on human emotional energy, particularly the dense frequencies generated by fear, anger, despair, and suffering. Consequently, they actively work to perpetuate circumstances and belief systems that generate these emotional states, creating elaborate networks of deception designed to keep humanity ignorant of its true nature and divine potential. Standing in absolute contrast to this system of control and limitation exists the Monad, the ultimate primordial source of all consciousness, and the true transcendent God completely beyond the demiurge's jurisdiction. The Monad represents pure, undifferentiated divine light, infinite potential, and absolute creative power existing prior to all division, form, and manifestation. Unlike the demiurge who demands worship and obedience, the Monad requires nothing and simply is, radiating its nature eternally throughout all dimensions and possibilities. The core Gnostic revelation that revolutionized spiritual understanding declares that every human soul contains within its deepest essence a divine spark directly connected to this Monad, a fragment of that primordial light that cannot be corrupted, controlled, or destroyed by any force within the material realm or its governing powers. This recognition transforms the spiritual journey from one of external seeking and submission to authority into an internal process of remembering, awakening, and reconnecting with one's authentic divine nature. The path to reunification with the Monad does not require earning worthiness through moral perfection or ritualistic compliance, but rather demands only the dissolution of false beliefs and the clearing of archonic interference, blocking awareness of the connection that has always existed. The Monad Light Ascension, decoding Enoch's technique. The Monad Light Ascension technique, preserved through Enochian traditions, represents a sophisticated spiritual technology, specifically designed to bypass archonic interference and establish direct conscious connection with the primordial divine source. This practice differs fundamentally from conventional meditation or prayer by incorporating precise energetic mechanics based on understanding how consciousness navigates through dimensional layers and how certain frequencies create pathways through barriers that normally prevent access to higher realms. Enoch's genius lay in systematizing this knowledge into a repeatable technique that could be transmitted to others willing to undertake the necessary preparation and practice. The fundamental purpose of this technique centers on creating what Gnostic texts describe as a pillar of light, an energetic column extending from the practitioner's consciousness through all intervening dimensions directly to the Monad itself. This column functions simultaneously as a protective barrier against archonic interference and as a conduit through which Monad light can flow into the practitioner's being, gradually transforming their energetic structure and expanding their consciousness beyond normal human limitations. The establishment of this connection requires extraordinary focus, sustained intention, and the cultivation of specific internal states that resonate at frequencies incompatible with archonic manipulation. The practical aspects of the technique involve carefully sequenced meditative practices that progressively deepen awareness while simultaneously raising vibrational frequency. These practices begin with grounding and centering exercises that establish stable presence in the physical body, preventing the disorientation and vulnerability that can occur when consciousness extends into unfamiliar dimensions. From this foundation, practitioners employ specific visualization techniques that activate dormant capacities within human consciousness, particularly the ability to perceive and navigate non-physical realities with the same clarity normally reserved for physical perception. Central to the technique's effectiveness is the conscious cultivation of specific emotional and mental states that naturally repel archonic interference while attracting Monad light. These states include unwavering conviction in one's divine nature, fearless rejection of all false authority, and boundless compassion that recognizes the divine spark even in beings attempting to control or harm. The invocation of divine names serves as a crucial component of the practice. Though these names represent not external beings to be petitioned, but rather vibrational keys that unlock latent capacities within consciousness itself, activating dormant spiritual faculties and establishing resonance with specific aspects of divine reality. The ritual revealed steps to spiritual liberation. The practical implementation of Enoch's Archon Ritual begins long before the formal practice itself through extensive preparatory work that establishes the necessary conditions for success. Creating sacred space represents the first essential step, involving not merely physical arrangements, but the energetic clearing and consecration of the environment where practice will occur. This process removes accumulated negative energies, establishes protective boundaries against intrusive forces, and dedicates the space exclusively to spiritual work. Practitioners employ various methods, including sound, incense, visualization, and intentional movement to accomplish this preparation, adapting techniques to their specific circumstances and sensibilities. Mental focus development requires equally rigorous attention, as the technique demands sustained concentration far exceeding normal meditative capacity. Practitioners must cultivate the ability to maintain single-pointed awareness for extended periods without succumbing to distraction, drowsiness, or mental wandering. This capacity develops gradually through consistent practice of foundational meditation techniques that strengthen concentration while simultaneously relaxing the grip of the ego mind. The clearing of internal noise, the constant stream of thoughts, worries, memories, and fantasies that typically dominate human consciousness, becomes paramount as these mental patterns create interference that disrupts the delicate energetic work required for monad connection. The invocation aspect of the ritual involves speaking or internally resonating with specific divine names drawn from various esoteric traditions, including Hebrew mysticism, ancient Egyptian spiritual technology, and Gnostic revelation. These names function as sonic codes that restructure consciousness at fundamental levels, creating temporary openings in the dimensional barriers maintained by Archonic forces. The sequence and pronunciation of these names matter significantly, as improper usage can prove ineffective or even dangerous. The invocations create a pathway for monad light by establishing harmonic resonance between the practitioners, consciousness, and specific frequencies of divine reality, essentially tuning awareness to perceive and receive transmissions normally beyond human sensory range. As the ritual progresses through its carefully ordered stages, practitioners report experiencing distinct shifts in perception and awareness. Initial phases often involve intensification of physical sensations as dormant energy systems activate throughout the body. Subsequent stages bring experiences of expansion beyond normal body consciousness, awareness of presences and dimensions invisible to ordinary perception, and eventually direct encounter with luminous intelligence that communicates through impression rather than language. The culminating experience involves merger with an overwhelming light of impossible brilliance and purity, accompanied by profound recognition of one's eternal nature and complete dissolution of all fear, limitation, and separation. Beyond the Bell transformation and the future of consciousness, individuals who successfully complete the Monad Light Ascension technique undergo transformations so profound that they often describe their previous existence as comparable to sleepwalking through a dream, unconsciously responding to programming while remaining ignorant of reality's true nature. The immediate aftermath of authentic monad contact typically involves a period of integration during which the expanded consciousness encountered during the ritual gradually stabilizes and becomes accessible in ordinary waking life. This integration process varies significantly among practitioners, with some experiencing relatively smooth transitions, while others navigate challenging periods of disorientation as their previous worldview dissolves and new paradigms establish themselves. The spiritual liberation achieved through this practice manifests as freedom from fear at its deepest levels, not as an emotional suppression or philosophical acceptance, but as direct experiential knowledge that the true self cannot be harmed, limited, or destroyed by any circumstance within material existence. This liberation extends to release from the compulsive patterns, addictions, and unconscious behaviors that previously governed life choices. Practitioners report experiencing themselves as conscious creators of their reality rather than victims of circumstances, recognizing that external situations reflect internal states and can be transformed through shifts in consciousness. The real-world implications of this ascension practice extend far beyond personal spiritual experiences into tangible changes in daily life. Increased intuition becomes so pronounced that practitioners often describe receiving clear guidance about decisions, relationships, and directions before rational mind recognizes the relevant factors. Deeper connection with all life manifests as spontaneous compassion and understanding, even toward those whose actions would previously have triggered judgment or anger. Freedom from perceived constraints allows creative expression and life choices, no longer limited by fear-based conditioning or societal expectations about appropriate behavior. As humanity approaches critical junctures in collective evolution during this transformative period, the recovery and practice of techniques like Enoch's ritual take on significance beyond individual liberation. Each person who successfully establishes direct monad connection contributes to raising the collective consciousness field, making similar awakenings progressively easier for others. This creates exponential acceleration toward planetary transformation, where humanity collectively remembers its divine nature and transcends the systems of control that have dominated civilization throughout recorded history. The potential for mass awakening in the coming years exceeds anything previously possible, as technological connectivity combines with ancient spiritual technology to facilitate rapid transmission of liberating knowledge across all geographical and cultural boundaries simultaneously. Have you experienced direct monad contact or attempted similar ascension practices? Share your journey in the comments below. Your experience could illuminate the path for countless others seeking liberation.